Well, good morning, everybody. This is DJ Franzi live. It's let's say 3 o'clock in the morning. I had an idea just an hour ago to capture the essence of a so-called hypomanic state. And hypomanic means sort of unstoppable in action. And a lot of artists are bipolar. And there are two flavors: a heavy kind, which needs to be sometimes medicated or stopped, and a little bit less hypo means, I don't know, less manic state, and they call that bipolar 2. And I have the bipolar 2 version for my whole life, I think, and it was a lot of trouble for me. So symptoms are restlessness, overachieving, unstoppable speak, and unstoppable action. So what you end up with is that you barely sleep enough. You sleep about 4 to 5 hours a night. At least that's my particular state. Everybody has this illness in his or her particular flavor. For me, after years of trying to cope with the illness, which has very nasty symptoms concerning the mental state, one of the most one of the worst features is that you get so tired. So the tiredness of the bipolar person is also translated in agitation, and the agitation is an engine for improvement, for me at least. So there's a lot of improving, and you see health, food, all kinds of extras to stimulate certain parts of the body. And it's 3 o'clock and I'm cooking. You hear the cooking going. I have a nice carrot going with garlic, onions, and I don't know, maybe some butter later. But I got this idea, and for me, the artist, I always struggled as an artist. I found only 3 weeks ago my mind was eased enough to let the idea through that I might be an artist, that I might be, after all these years of writing and drawing and making paintings, doing DJ sets, producing house music, all sorts of music basically, all these creative activities, that I might be an artist, that I just might be an artist. And that sort of sparked a great sense of joy, because I connect the artist with the solution to the problem. Because untreated bipolar illness is a dreadful disease which leads to a lot of suicide. I think that's why this message is important. At least the message I'm trying to convey is to to get mindful of the situation, to get an idea of what the illness is. And I've been writing and drawing my whole life about the illness, and sometimes I just, after 30 years of sort of thinking about what is happening, because that's the mindful set. The mindful set is that you are aware of the thinking that goes on and analyzing it also. So thinking goes on, so particular patterns are always like, this needs to be improved right fucking now, or otherwise I'll die, of the agitation it produces or the discomfort. So this house is very, very well set up, like a tool set for performance, because everything annoys me. So, for instance, the whole kitchen is about 4 inches higher than everywhere I've been so far. most of the stuff is sort of either recycled stuff or homemade. The table is homemade. Out of fascination for all the arts, but also I need them to be in a particular style. Otherwise, I really get disgusted. So that's tough. So, but the funny thing is, I always thought of myself as a loser and a victim, because I had this dreadful disease that made me jump around for half a year at the time. And now I realize, well, it might be, discomfort, but it's also a very insightful journey to self-discovery, because if you're good, you don't need to worry. Don't worry. The people who have problems, they worry. I think a lot of people are quite happy, and that's good. And I wish them all the best. But the people who have the problems, who have the disease or any other mental disease, because I think most mental diseases are basically the same illness with different symptoms, but it's the one of problems with ego and self-reflection, and that connected to the body and the whole environment. So about this crazy thing, what about it, Franz? I'll just let you look at it for a while, because I think a lot of people say, this is too much energy, Franz, we're not keeping up with this. But you will, because I'm going to frame it for a couple of seconds, and then I'm going to have a little bit extra lighting on there. Because I think it's a good point. It's a point. I think it's a point worth making. And the point is, why work so hard? Because my body starts aching really badly at the moment. What kind of lighting, Franz? What can you give me? Yes, the mind. The mind. You see that? They're turning. They're spinning. So the mind keeps spinning. It's never easy. It's not eased. So and it will produce ideas. So that problem got me to Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle, ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest philosophers of the 20th century. 21st? I don't know. Eckhart. He taught me about the mind. Thoughts are not reality. You can observe them. Wow. So you don't have to follow them all the time. My goodness! I think that did it for me. Because then there was this little bit of distance between the thought and the action, and what we could call the persona. And I love the word persona, person, because it's that which the sound comes through. Alan Watts told me that. That where the sound comes through. Persona. Persona, sound through. So that where the sound comes through, persona, there is so much sound coming through this person in the hypomanic state. It's incredible. It shouts, it makes a lot of noise, it's always talking, it has a lot of opinions, very strong ones. It makes so much noise, persona. So the persona is really, really busy. And I think for me, what did it was, I could see the persona and be aware of the situation and not being completely identified with the person. So there was less shame. Sure, I was really, really busy. And I think I annoyed a lot of people more than ever, because I was aware, and I didn't let that situation it didn't confuse me like it did. And the exit for me was that the body worked better. After a lot of searching, my body started improving, and I did sports and sauna, and I had a holiday. And all these things, I didn't have a holiday for 7 years. all these things combined, finding the exit to all these things, and it gave me a huge boost this time. And being hypomanic and having a boost, it's a double whammy. So what the idea that came through, and I translate to English because I have a larger audience. And what you see here is me working really hard. You see, I'm angry or I'm really frustrated, and I'm also really happy. So there's an annoyance. There's a complete constriction of energy, and you see this arm is really working hard. And there's this huge drill. I have this huge drill. Look at the size of the thing. It's incredibly big. And it's really heavy. And it only comes out when you have to do this kind of screws. So there's agitation, and there's working, and there's this tiny man. And I'm not a tiny man. That's thin. I lost 20 pounds. In a couple of months. So I'm really thin. I always see it at the throat. The throat gets really thin. To find the border within the enthusiasm of the hypomanic state is maybe the base of the illness. Feelings of inadequacy, restlessness, discontent lead oh yeah, do you think you are a failure? I do a lot of extras. You think you're a failure? I thought, until 3 weeks ago, I thought I was a complete failure. And mind you, I was already 20 years into philosophy and non-duality. Still there was a real big sense of all this, but still completely failed. And that went with better supplements. It was like a dopamine serotonin thing all along, at least for me. That got improved, and then the sense was, well, reality, you cannot argue with reality. So it dawned that as a person, I have friends, I love people, I have, I think, a good job, and make a lot of art. Where's then the failure thing? Because reality is, that is my reality. You can see there's a lot of stuff here. I'll show you. Now it makes a lot of noise, but it only will take a second. So it's really dark because it's 3 o'clock in the morning. But I do occasionally nice that for you. Ah, my goodness gracious. What I also found was that I'm like a squirrel. I collect a lot of nuts. And so you get a lot of stuff. And if you have enough life, there will be a lot of stuff. And so here you see the end result of 10 years of working on one chest. Can we get more lighting there? And it's completely in disarray at the moment because, you know, the hypomanic state got me into a remodeling. And you have to... Oh! Ha! It went. Excuse me, viewers. Let's see. So, the chest. I'm sorry about that. The chest is a handmade chest with a lot of recycled wood. This is from an old farm. I think it's 200 years old. And I love recycling. So I recycled IKEA and I recycled old records, really old stuff. And I'm also recycling my diaries, because they are like, my thing is, if you're not really aware, you don't see the pattern that you keep producing. And so writing is a good tool. You can look back and think, I was really depressed at the time. Look at this idea I have here. It's not correct. And you can see that pattern all the way there. So it's an investigation into your own mental state. And this guy with this light, I like the light. Enlightment. I like the idea. To have more light on the situation. And as a persona, I cannot speak to truth too much, because I think that's what the persona is. It's a translation. But the reality is, I do really good at the moment. I am really tired. But this morning there was enough awareness to stop working. So I stopped working after an hour and I start talking to you, conveying this idea. It might be a lot of extra noise. My God. Yeah. Does the situation improve? Our situation has not improved. I don't know. Is this enough lighting? I don't think so, for real. Forget about it. Perfectionism is so tiring. So I'm in a really good place because I stopped. And now I have to rest. There's just the awareness that the illness is dragging me through the shit of more pain, because then the body feels completely, and then the despair and the depression have their fuel to be unhappy. So this is just a little update, you know? Sometimes you have to remind yourself, you have to write, this is just one idea after a lot of searching, but there are plenty. And I make these little drawings and these recordings. I have a lot of audio too. Because when you speak about it, only when you speak about it, you can find truth in it or not. So I always do a lot of stuff out loud. And then I hear that voice and think, oh, this is one of the villagers. And that's a great idea of, I like to combine ideas of great philosophy. And a lot of people piss on Osho. But I think he had his moments. And he once said, you are not a person, you're not one, you are a village. Because one of my biggest things was always, I liked it all. I already saw that all opinions are valid. So I developed hobby opinions, the ones I like most, but only because there's a little fancy in there. So I have a lot of opinions about music and art, and it's very no nuance. I'm really, really mad at some stuff, and I'm really, really enthused about other. But that's great. But if you have that in everything you do, like relations and work, you're very dominant. And I like the 360 view. Every opinion is true from the person, from the persona. So everybody's only reacting from his own patterns, so there's no need to defend any opinion, because that's just what it is, an opinion. So in this bigger space of seeing, there's the enlightenment part. That's where all the non-duality and philosophy and Buddhism is about, and Zen and Taoism. Confucius, in a sense. But I digress. The idea is, sometimes you just have a great idea. Write it down. Keep it in your diary. Make a good book. Because I recently, just a fortnight ago, I met a really beautiful person who is ill, but has, through his illness, found a new hobby to distract his mind, the thing that keeps on going on the illness. That's the same here. The mind keeps going on the illness. So I have 300,000 hints a day to produce something, and I have to flap them back, because any one of them will get me into a non-stop action state, which will destroy this body, which I want to keep in good shape. So this idea is more awareness, more writing, more self-awareness. So what are you doing? What are you doing in my swamp? Well, the mind is like a swamp, and sometimes you have to drain, and then at the exit of the drain there has to be truth. Is it really so? And nature is what of itself so. That is nature. I found that in Chinese philosophy. So nature is what you are if no one is looking. So I love the quote, how would you dance if nobody was looking? And I thought of myself one, and I said, how would you speak if nobody would judge you? And that is your truth, the truth of the persona, not the ultimate truth about reality, which is a whole different thing. And that gap, well, that's humanity. There's that what is, and that is that what we think about what is. And that's not the same thing. And that's what non-duality is about. So I have a lot of enthusiasm for philosophy. It helped me with this illness, ladies and gentlemen, people. And I think I post this just if one hypomanic person thinks, I might be, into writing and also truth. It's there. Jed McKenna once said, there is such a thing as truth, and I was completely delusioned at the time, and I was completely into my ego and into my persona, and I couldn't find any way out. And he said something, it was just one thing that collapsed the mind for maybe 10 seconds. And then normality could flow through this persona. So I think what enlightenment is that the complete condition is gone for a minute, and there's just the bamboozlement of life itself without any mind or ego-driven idea about what is. So there's just reality, and you are aware. So you've really, I always call that flowing through. It's like that all that is not manifested can look at what is manifested through these eyes. And when that's in nature, in a natural state, it's without any hassle. So it's effortlessness. And I found that in some things, if I get out of the way as a persona. So only speak can happen when there's like, nobody will judge me about this, because I really am unnuanced, I think, in a lot of stuff. But that is what I'm so tired about, the offense culture of this moment. That is the ego, and that is not who you are. So everybody who's invested in the ego is invested in somebody else. So I think a lot of people are egotistical, myself included, and also vain, myself included. But that is not a problem. The identification with these thoughts is the problem. So I can really smile at the guy who's really combing his hair hard, because I love him for that. That's really nice. You have good hair then. But when it comes to talking about the idea of this persona, which is really a biological plant or a fungus or some sort of life form, the thought about the thing is not the thing. It's always away. So when sometimes the lightning strikes to the persona gets away for a second. That's what all art is about. And then truth can come through if there's enough awareness. So that awareness you can train, and that's what Buddhism and non-duality is about. You can increase your awareness about this thinking thing, and then you can disconnect yourself from the thinking thing. And I can do that really well, and I can find when he's not talking truth. But you have to be really, you have to catch it. I was just about to explain a thing about a drain. Something is draining through, and there's truth at the end, that the truth has to cut. That's also Zen, and it has to cut. It has to cut the non-truth. So from this person, there is a lot of non-truth in the form of history and projection into the future. So history is all the things that has happened to the persona, and the future is all the things that are going to happen to the persona, imagined. So it's no reality. It's an imagination. It's a thought, a thing you can see. So if you are aware of that, you can say, oh, I am again invested in the persona. I am in pain, because that's basically what the persona is, pain, contraction, because nature is a different thing than ego. So, but it's all part of the same thing, because you can find the exit through the pain. That's what is the philosophizing and the thinking and the drawing and the expression is about. To try and find the end of the maze. And sometimes there's a glimpse. I don't think I'm at the end of that, but it's a good place to have a little, in between moment of, what is this guy about? I found that natural state sometimes through all sorts of stuff, and now there's more permanent of that. And what that is just pure joy. It's just a really nice, non-offensive joy of being, and I think a lot of people will be interested in that, because that's what the persona wants. That's what all the distraction is about, and you can find it everywhere, but it's only here. So a lot of people say, "Oh, no searching is needed. We are already home." And that is also true, I find it. But for the human time, which is it's very short, awareness and the awareness of thinking and the ego and the persona, if there's a good investigation into that, truth might come out about your particular human condition, which is just this little ant's view of this huge anthill. But sometimes it's worthwhile, because I think it's a worthwhile journey that never left in the first place. And I leave it at that for the moment, ladies and gentle people. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Love you all.